Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Katie, I'm a full-time artist, and today I want to share with you my tips and tricks for finding references from Mapcrunch. So Mapcrunch is a random generator for Google Maps, and I do use Google Maps and Mapcrunch to find references for my work. And if you've seen any of my daily art challenge videos or seen my sketchbook on Instagram, you'll know I find it a really good source for things to draw. One of my most frequently asked questions is how to find a good view. So I'm going to walk you through my process for how to find good views on Mapcrunch, because I know sometimes it can just drop you into a random field or a random road and you're just looking at a hedge. So I'm going to share my tips and tricks for finding views that are definitely worthy for your sketchbook. I love using Google Maps and Mapcrunch for my artwork because it really expands my subjects. So obviously you're going to have different architecture and different nature all around the world. And so I do find that it's a really good way to push out of my comfort zone from the things that I'm so used to drawing here. And I do find it a really good way to find exciting references. I'm also going to show you some examples in my sketchbooks for how I've taken these views, all of my panel spreads, and some examples for turning them into bigger pieces of artwork, as well as showing you the exact process on my iPad for finding the Mapcrunch views. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's jump right in. So I've just grabbed this A5 sketchbook, which is finished, and as you can see I do use Mapcrunch and Google Maps a lot in my artwork. So I'm just going to go through and show you some examples. So this one is just a full panel spread. This one I think was down in Cornwall. So you can just fill the full page with the view, which is probably the most common way to do it. But I also really enjoy doing panels, and if you've seen on Instagram you'll know that this is definitely a common thing that I do in my sketchbook and is perfect for Mapcrunch. So for this one I just stuck to one street. This was a Mapcrunch drop in Australia. By just going down one street you'll have plenty of things to draw. So that's a really nice way to do it, but you can also do it per country. So you could do a Mapcrunch view in each panel and explore that way. This is a similar thing, so this is one neighbourhood, but by using timers you can keep things moving quickly. And I talk about timers all the time, but I really enjoy it for filling a sketchbook spread really quickly, and Mapcrunch just gives you the views, so you just go with it and then fill it like this. Again, this was another one. These were 5-minute panels. You can see that this is the same place. A lot of the architecture is the same, but I've also used a limited colour palette, which really helps to tie it in. So even if these were completely different houses or completely different places, by using this limited colour palette it makes it look all cohesive. Again, these were some quick 5-minute panels, again going down the one street. This was another full page spread. So I did this one twice. I did this in this A5 sketchbook and again in my A4 sketchbook. So by doing the same view that you get on Mapcrunch twice, it's really interesting to use different techniques and see what you learn from one to apply to the other. This was a Mapcrunch drop in America, so I'll show you on Mapcrunch you can decide if you want an urban or a rural scene. So if you prefer doing more city scenes, then that's definitely an option. Now this one wasn't done on Google Maps or Mapcrunch, but I wanted to show it to you because you can easily fill a spread like this using the Mapcrunch views. So by clicking through, which I'll show you again in a moment, you can fill a panel like this really quickly, and you could just spend 5 minutes per panel, and I think it's a really effective sketchbook spread. This one was another random pin drop in Google Maps, and again I do the same view multiple times in the same time frame, so these were 10 minutes each, and again it just means that you look at the view in a different way. This was the same view but slightly shifted to the right, so there's loads of options when you do drop one pin of different views you can find. Instead of doing panels for this one, I kept them a bit more organic and filled the page like this. This was in Croatia and this was a Mapcrunch view. I stuck to the same country but not the same neighbourhood. Again, another one where I split it into panels. This one I found the view on Mapcrunch and then I found it again on Google Maps so I could take my time in sort of moving around and moving the pin a bit further. I find that an easier way than navigating on Mapcrunch. This was similar. This was in Bruges. This was just following the road round and finding the different scenes that I wanted to draw. This was interesting because I added more cars in, but again I used the limited colour palette, which really helped. This is one of my favourite pieces in the sketchbook, and this was a Google Maps pin drop in Cornwall again, and sometimes you'll get views from like drones or on boats, so it's a really nice way. You don't have to just get the views on the road. Obviously on Google Maps the streetcar is going to be on the road and that's like your main viewpoint, but if you look for the little circles, those are user uploaded pictures, and so often you'll get people who take the photos and share them in their reviews or just onto Google, so you can find really nice quality images, and they're usually from different places, so they're not from the road. You might go to somewhere that's just pedestrian only and be able to find a view that way. This one was another panel spread in Estonia, and this was done with gouache, so a lot of the times, especially for the quicker ones, I just use brush pens and coloured pencils, but you can use any medium that you like and fill your spreads. This was when I was trying soft pastel. This one I was in Wales, and again it was another Mapcrunch drop along the same road. And then another one which is in Cornwall. So I definitely have my comfort zone in terms of some views. I really love drawing water in the countryside, especially down in Cornwall or Devon. But like I showed you with like the Estonia and Croatia drawings, it's a really nice way to find different styles of architecture that you wouldn't normally draw. And so I'm going to show you how I find these views on Mapcrunch now. So I've just opened up Mapcrunch, and this is the first view that it's taken me to, which is really lovely. This is in Italy, and I'll show you the options in a moment, but I just want to talk through some things that you can take from like the first view that you find. So obviously you can zoom in, and I really like this view here with the mountains in the distance, but I'm also really taken by this bit here with the green and the pink. So you can also find colour inspiration from these views, and I really love the way that that looks. If you did want to do more architecture-based drawings, then you can focus on the houses and really zoom in and find these details. One of the things I really like about Mapcrunch is that it obviously shows you day-to-day life, so there's a lot of road signs and things that I always find interesting. But when I turn around, and I've gone 180 here, you can see this lovely view of these colourful houses and buildings in the distance, and I think that would make a really lovely spread. And again, you can split this into panels, so that could be one panel, a thinner panel here, and again for this one. So just from this one view, you can easily fill some panels in one sketchbook spread, or even do multiple double page spreads from this one viewpoint. So I'm going to show you here the options that you have. You can filter by country, so sometimes if I want to do something totally different, then I'll go out of my comfort zone to Thailand or USA. I don't often draw there. You can also filter by the map and drag him like that, which is more common with Google Maps. But you can also filter down here with an urban scene and also indoor. So I don't often use indoor because I prefer to draw outdoor scenes, but the urban one is really useful because it only takes you to cities. So I'm going to turn that off, and we'll just randomly generate a next view. So this is a really good example of having different vegetation and different style houses. Again, you've got examples of real life, which is really nice. I really like these blue chairs, so you could focus in on that. I'm really keen on including things like telegraph poles and the lines. I think that always adds a lot of narrative to the work. But you can see here, if you don't often draw vegetation like this because they're not in your country, you can practice like the palm trees here. So far we've gotten pretty lucky with our views, but like I said, you can carry on going down the road if you want things to look similar to the other panels, or if you're doing one view. I really like things like this, which we wouldn't get over here in England. I think scenes like this are really interesting to draw. So if we go to our next one, this is a good example of something that I personally wouldn't draw and isn't a very nice aesthetic, but I want to show that, you know, exploring a little bit really is a good way for finding nice views. So I wouldn't just discount this completely. I would sort of use these arrows and explore a bit more. I really like the colours of this. I think that would be nice. And you don't have to always look for the pretty views. I know that's often common, and like sometimes I do that too, but I do think that there's beauty in the everyday. And so I think there are still things that you could find here. So this is a more urban view. Again, I really like these trees against the buildings, but if you're not keen on drawing these, and also it is a difficult angle because you are looking up, I would probably go for one that's more like this. But again, you can just keep on moving around. I wouldn't go with like necessarily the first view that it gives you. By spinning the camera, you open yourself up to a lot more views. Like here, for example, you could do a panel with the trees on the edge and then draw these buildings in the distance. So this one is quite empty and open, but I think framing and cropping can really help with views like this. So you could do a square of just this area here. So you've got like the fields intertwining over here. You could add little houses in the back. You've got the mountains in the distance. So that could be one panel. And then you could draw the cars, but for me this wouldn't be interesting. But if you take the map view for this one, if we see where we are, which is in North Macedonia, you can move yourself around the country that way. If I zoom in a little bit more, you can drag these and find different views of that country to fill your panel spread. So obviously this one looks like it's a user uploaded image, so again the Google Street car wouldn't come up here, but it gives you more options, and I really like this view here. You've got the mountains and the lovely colours over there, and so dragging like this is also a good way to find new views. We've got some more urban scenes, and again, like you could do little snapshots of life. I quite like these windows up here. So it does, obviously it takes you on the road, but you can find the different views. You don't have to include the road, and I rarely do. So I would usually crop that out. Whereas like sometimes you could do the road in front of you and see where it takes you. I really like this building here. So I'd probably focus in on this rather than the road, but it's up to you what you want to draw. And if you are doing like a narrative, then it might be nice to have that continuously going through your panels. So this is one where I'd probably just move on. To me there's just too much green, and although you could definitely find little panels, for me I think I would just move on. So don't feel like you have to like go for whatever you're given. Like this one, again, there's not much there, and this is like when I said they'd just take you to a hedge, but you can explore a little bit further, and don't be afraid of moving around and finding the view that you'd like. Like if you're interested in machinery, this might be a good one as like the juxtaposition between the nature and then the machinery here. And I wouldn't normally pick this one out. So like if I was on a copyright-free image site to find some references, this wouldn't be one that I would normally pick. But seeing it like this, I think would be a really nice way to fill a panel. And again, here I could do like a small panel here with the flowers in the foreground and then this lovely graphic sign. So I do think that there's many ways you can use Mapcrunch to fill your sketchbook and find different views. I'll show you how I do it on Google Maps as well. So with Google Maps it's similar. Say I want to do a view in Wales. So if you click the Street View Man, it will come up with all of the places where it's been, and then these are the little circles I was talking about where it's a photosphere, so it's generally a 360 view from a photo that someone's uploaded, but I'll just drag the man onto somewhere on the map. So this is obviously a valley in Wales, a really lovely one. I've done quite a few views like this where it's got the fence in the foreground and then it's got the lovely valleys over here. You've got the sheep that you could focus on. So even just taking this one view, you could craft a narrative for it. and do maybe a panel close-up of sheep and then go find a reference of sheep if you need that. So you can take this one and really build from this. And you can also add to it, so you could add houses here, like you don't have to stick directly to the reference. If I go to one of these photo spheres, this is where the Google streetcar won't reach. So here's obviously a little cottage, and again you can create your own narrative based on this. And I just find it a really good way to limit my options, because there are just so many images on copyright-free sites or just in general. I find just going on Google Mapcrunch and taking some of the options away from myself by making it randomly generated, it really helps me to get a starting point to then create artwork. So I know this has been quite a chatty, rambly video, but I hope it's been helpful and has maybe given you some options with Mapcrunch or some ideas to fill your sketchbook. And I hope it was helpful to look through mine. So if you do have any further questions, then do pop them down in the comments, and I will see you next Sunday with a new video. See you later.